Hi there, thanks for tuning in today. I have a quick video on how I repress my powder foundations. I've never tried this with blush or bronzer or eyeshadow. This is just how I repress my powder foundations, and I add a little secret ingredient in there, so keep watching if you want to see how I repress and what I add into the formula. So this is the powder I'm going to be working on. It's the Becca Perfect Skin Mineral Powder Foundation. It's in a project pan. I'll link that project pan down below so you can check it out. But I do want to repress this because I'm getting to the outer ring and I don't want to ruin my brushes. So I'm going to bring all the powder into the middle, and then I'm going to show you what I add so that I can repress it and make it a little easier to use. Hi everyone, I have my powder right here, which is the Becca Perfect Skin Mineral Powder Foundation. I'm going to be repressing this. You can see the powder's all around the edge of the pan. I want to get it in the middle so I can use it a lot easier. And the ingredients and tools that I like to use for repressing are 70% rubbing alcohol. This is the Harris Teeter one, and I actually put it in another bottle because, as you can see, let me open this up, the mouth of this bottle is very wide, and I've noticed that I can pour out way too much alcohol if I use this bottle, so I put it in this little Clinique bottle which has been cleaned out, and I have alcohol in here. So the alcohol, and then I also like to add, this is my little secret ingredient, is the Desert Essence Organic Jojoba Oil. And if you have any kind of, issues with jojoba oil, I definitely would say do not put it in with your repress, like when you're repressing your powders, but if not, give it a try. I find that the alcohol really seems to dry things out, and adding a couple drops of this just makes it a little smoother. I have repressed using both, including the jojoba oil, but then also not including it, and I did notice a difference when I include the jojoba oil. It just seems to be a little bit smoother, a little softer, and a little less powdery. For tools, I like to use these little toothpicks, and I have a whole bag of them right here. And then a little 1/4 teaspoon, I use it to kind of crush it down. These are clean. And then I also have paper towels and a baby wipe just in case things get messy. I did put a little cloth down in case powder flies up everywhere. It's not going to get all over my desk. So let's get started. The first thing I like to do is I just scrape out the product. So I start, sorry if you can't see, I just kind of start scraping. I'm going to have to scrape the rest of the powder out without tilting it up because, as you can see, I have a little spillage right there. So I'm going to scrape the rest of it with it down, with the powder down. And sometimes it kind of comes up in chunks. So I kind of just crunch it up here. I don't want to tip it too much, but there's the powder. And I like to push it all to the center here. And I'll give you a little view so that you can see. I'll just have to take the camera right here. Here's what the powder looks like when I removed it away from the sides of the compact. So now I'm just using my little teaspoon, and I'm using the flat edge on the bottom to crush up the powder. And also I washed my hands very well before doing this. I just kind of crush, crush, crush. As you can see, those pieces are getting smaller. So the powder's all crushed up now, and I've pulled it into a mound in the center of the pan, and I've pulled it away from the sides using this little toothpick just to get the powder in the center and not all, back in the sides where I just pulled it away from. I'm using just a couple of drops of this alcohol. Again, it's in a different container, a little easier for me to control, and I just add a couple of drops and then stir using the toothpick. And it kind of forms into a big blob. And I just keep stirring, pull it away from the sides, kind of stir it towards the center. A couple more drops. A couple more drops. I don't want to completely drown the powder in alcohol, so that's why I do it in phases. I find when I add too much alcohol, it takes a really long time to dry, and the more alcohol, I just feel like it kind of changes the consistency if you completely drench it. So I have a lot of the powder is saturated, but it's not completely drowning in alcohol. It's a little bit stiff, and I'm just making sure all the powder gets wet so I can repress it. I try to keep it in the center of the pan as much as I can. Now I'm going to add a drop of jojoba oil. Before adding the jojoba oil, I wanted to show you the consistency and what the powder looks like with the alcohol. There is a little bit of resistance when I stick the toothpick in and pull it out. There's just a little bit, but that's what that looks like. I'm going to add 1 to 2 drops of jojoba oil. I'm going to add 2. So there's 2 drops of jojoba oil, and I'm going to just stir it in using my toothpick. I want to make sure it gets all around the powder there. I can definitely tell a difference in the consistency of this mixture. It's definitely easier to mix. There's less resistance once I add the jojoba oil. Here's what the powder looks like after adding the jojoba oil and the alcohol, and I'm just trying to make sure everything's saturated about the same and kind of pulling it a little bit away from the sides. I don't worry about what it really looks like after repressing it because I'm just going to use it up in the next couple of weeks anyway, but I do want to have the powder concentrated to the middle area of the compact because once it gets to the sides I find it very difficult to get out, and I don't want to have to bother with, repressing it a second time. So I spread it out, thin, even layer, and a lot of product can kind of heap up on the toothpick. I just scrape it on the sides and then scoop it like that. I can put that back down. So I'm just soaking up any excess moisture that I might have on the top of the powder using this paper towel and just pressing it in, evening it out just a little bit more, and kind of lightly dabbing it. I'm not like pushing it super hard in, just lightly dabbing it. I'm gonna use the other side now. Just lightly dab, dab. And as you can see, there's not too much product on the paper towel. I feel like it just picks up the oil and the alcohol that's left over. So just dab, dab, dab. And that's my repressed powder. Here's what my compact looks like after repressing it. It will have to dry. It's going to be wet for about anywhere from like 6-8 hours to 24 hours depending on your humidity or your climate. But you see the little bumps on there? That's from the paper towel. So whatever paper towel design you have kind of relays onto the powder there. But I don't mind having bumps. Those should disappear within a couple of uses. But it's been about 24 hours since repressing the powder. It's definitely dry now, and when I swatch it or feel it, it feels very soft and smooth to the touch. It was probably dry around hour 10 or 12, but I just gave it a little extra time before filming, and I noticed that the powder kind of compressed down into the pan a little bit more as it dried. As the alcohol evaporated, I feel like it kind of smushed down just a little bit more into the pan. But I would be interested in any tricks or tips that you might have. If you've repressed powders before, I'd love to hear them down in the comments. Or if you just repress them differently, please let me know how you do it. That's how I like to repress my powder foundations. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.